Hey guys, Tim here. Welcome back to Big Dog Forge. So, a couple of things before we get started today. I haven't been back to my computer in a couple of days and I haven't been answering too many of the comments on the channel. I think I got most of them cleared up tonight. I apologize for that. So, the next thing is I've had a couple of folks, no, several folks, wanting to send me things in the mail, and I was unable to do that until now. So there's a P.O. box. If you look right there, there's that P.O. box. If you need to send me something, go ahead and send it there, no matter what it is, whatever you got, and we'll start doing a mail opening kind of thing. I've got a couple of pieces of mail that I've gotten. I've kind of opened them and I haven't responded to folks, and I need to take care of that. So we'll start doing a mail thing on the channel, opening mail, that kind of stuff. So if you need to send something, we'll do that. Let's see, this week we're going to be relining the welding forge. So this is not necessarily a how-to, it's a how I do kind of thing. And if it helps you out, great. If you got some suggestions, let me know. Always willing to listen to suggestions. You never stop learning. So anyway, let's get to it, guys, and thanks for watching. See you in a bit. Bye-bye. Alrighty, guys. Pretty straightforward. We got the new forge and we got this old thing. It's got all this flux in the bottom that's melted into glass, basically, and we need to fix it. So I'm just gonna tear the guts out of this thing. Came out pretty easy. Get it all vacuumed up. Get ready to put some new insole in. So you got your protective gear, gloves, some kind of face mask. Anyway, when I cut this stuff, what I do is I'll measure the outside of the forge and I cut it big. I cut usually way too much, and I fit it as I go. I've tried calculating, I've tried cutting cardboard pieces, doing just about everything that you can do to make it just right. And if it ends up being too small, you end up cutting it again, and you can waste a lot of material that way as well. I like doing it once, so I cut it a little big, and then trim off the excess. So it can get a little expensive that way, but this is something I do, a couple of times a year, so it's not too bad. All right, so I'm cutting the inner and outer layer to go around the inside of the forge. I cut them the same, and like I said, I'll cut to fit later on. And then those trimmed off pieces, I'm going to make the back half of the forge. There's no door in the back or opening in the back, so I take the old piece out of the back and I'll lay it out, and I'll use one of the drop pieces or cutoffs. And the first circle is going to be the inside. The second two, I'm going to overlap them, and I'm going to cut it down the center, and it'll give me two halves that I can stick side by side all the way up against the back. And that one with the square corners will be cut down smaller to fit in. So these are our two halves, and they're going to go just like that, and get them all tucked in, and I'll show you what they look like. It looks like one piece back there, huh? Alright, now we're going to start putting our side blankets in, so they overlap that back. Like I said, this is going to be way too long, by a few inches, so I'm going to tuck it in as best I can, and I'll take my little measurement on the outside, put a snip in it, trim that off, and I still keep it about a ½ inch longer than what I think I'm going to need, because I want that blanket to compress against itself and push outward towards the forge. So push it all the way back, wiggle it all the way back, squish it into place. You don't want to compress it too much. And we take the second one and we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to overlap the front there a little bit, get an eyeball on where we need to snip it, and that'll be our line to cut. And we'll trim that guy off. Again, we're leaving them just a little bit long so we got some compression. And we want those two bottom ends to sort of offset. So you put one seam a little to the left, one seam a little to the right. so they're not perfectly lined up. Alright, now that we've got that end, the smaller circle we cut with the square corners is gonna, there you go, and it's gonna fit right inside there, but it's too big, obviously. So we're going to get an eyeball on that, just kind of trim it down. Again, we're going to leave it big. We want it to compress in there all the way to the back, and then we'll tuck the edges up into the corners and give us a nice tight seal. And we'll let you take a look here in a second, get all tidied up. Alright, that's what she looks like. Okie doke. I'm going to take our scissors and trim just a little at a time. Take a little off at a time. Don't try to get both layers. You end up tearing it, mussing it up. So you just trim it back to the face of the forge. And I found this is the easiest way to do it. That way you get the perfect length, front to back. It's compressed in there nice. I only have to do it once. And you end up trimming a little bit off. You lose a little bit. But like I said, I'll only do this a couple of times a year anyway. Alright, tidy everything up. And what we're going to do is we're going to fit a hard fire brick in the bottom to resist our flux. So we're going to get it in there, we're going to press it nice and tight against the bottom, and that'll impress some lines. And we're going to go ahead and cut that first layer out. Just as wide as a brick, a little bit narrower. And the reason I do this now is because I've got that piece tucked in the back. It's compressed everything back there and it's holding it all together. And it's a little easier to cut it out now than to try to fit it later and all that other good stuff. Alright. So we've actually got a couple of small bricks in the back and the big one in the front. There you go. And we're going to cut out the hole for the burner. I use a hacksaw blade for this, fairly fine tooth, and just run it around the inside. My rigidizer, colloidal silica, says it's bad for you, 10 bucks. So you paint the Insuwol, KOL, whatever you're using, with this because it is a ceramic fiber and it becomes airborne very, very easily. And those ceramic fibers are like, they're like little shards of glass. They get into your lungs, your sinuses. It's not good for you. And what this stuff does is it soaks in and it rigidizes all this. Does a couple of things. Keeps the particles from becoming airborne, and it gives a nice rigid surface to the blanket so that you can put your refractory material over that, whether it's Saintonite or ITC 100 or whatever that you happen to be using for refractory on top of this. And it keeps it from being torn up too much. It can still be torn, it can still be punctured, but this really resists that. So while that's drying, we got to let that dry for 24 hours. We went out and got some quick connects. We've got 2 forges in the shop now. So we got some LP rated quick connects for both forges. And I'm going to take this little brass piece off here so we can, no, we got to take the whole elbow off. We got a new elbow for it. And a valve for this one. I like putting a valve on these things with a lever and a ball valve. That way I can, if there's any problem, I can just slap it real quick and it'll go off, or I can, hit it with the tongs or reach it with something to turn the gas off if I need to. Get all this tightened up here. There we go. And that one works. There we go. Back and forth. We can use both of them. So this burner is in sad shape. It was made out of mild steel and it burned away and it way outlived its usefulness. And I had tack welded it on there because the set screw kept falling out and the adjustment went bad. So we've got a piece of stainless that we built our other burnout out of, but it's like 1 3/4 inches, and we need to knock it down to about 1 1/4 inches. So we're going to shrink this pipe using our fullers and bring it down to the size we need. And we'll shrink one end, and takes a little bit to do this. You don't want to hit it too hard while it's hot. It'll just squish it, obviously. You got to work it down into a cold heat and you can start shrinking it. It's a lot like building a candle holder out of a piece of steel pipe. Just rotate it, keep rotating it on the fuller, and it'll start shrinking it. And then eventually we can just get it onto the flat table. We're going to stick a couple of mandrels in this thing to keep it as round as we can. This is our first. And like I said, we'll work this one end. We'll get it to the bandsaw, cut it off, and then we'll spin it around and work the other end. And we'll work the two ends different sizes so that we can put a mandrel in there. And we're going to turn a little stainless steel mandrel on the lathe in the basic shape that we want for the inside once we get this roughed out, and then we can refine it on the anvil by hand. So now we're working the smaller end, and we're going to bring that down to the size we need to slip over our burner pipe, while the end where the tongs is will remain larger as our flare. There we go. That's going to be our flare. And we're going to get this on a mandrel that we just made. And here's a mandrel. So the mandrel, and this will slip right over the end of it like that. Just like that. There you go. So we'll get this thing heated up again, and we'll drive the mandrel into it. And it's the size we need for the flare and for the pipe. So we'll just keep shrinking this metal down onto it. You do that with quick, light blows. You hit it too hard, you'll start spreading the metal and forging it out. And you have to keep rotating it and tapping it, and you'll be able to shrink it right down onto that thing. And this will take a few heats to get it just right. And this will get us close enough that we can get it over to the lathe, and we'll clean up the inside and the outside, and we should have a fairly decent flare here for that burner. Alright, let's cool this thing off, and we'll head over to the lathe. Alright, and we ran into Big Dog on the way to the lathe, and she wanted to play a little bit, so we had to stop and play. Okay, back to work. Let me get this thing centered as best we can. There we go. And we're just going to run a tool over the outside of it, you know, clean it up, give it a little more room inside the keeper on the forge. Just a little bit of lathe work here. And I didn't have a way to, or a proper tool to run over the transition between the large outer diameter and the smaller outer diameter that makes the bell shape of this thing. So once I cleaned up the outside of both ends, took a 4-inch grinder and a disc and just ran over it to get rid of the hammer marks and the imperfections. We'll clean up the inside of that bell a little bit at the end.
And really this is more aesthetic than it is to fit into the forge, but I just didn't like leaving it rough like that. There we go. And we're just going to run that down that angled portion and clean it up. It's a little warm there, you big dummy. Don't burn yourself. Alright. I'll run the grinder the other direction uphill. A little sandpaper on it. Alright, we get this inside cleaned up a little bit. And it didn't take much. It had smoothed out pretty well over that mandrel, but clean both ends up. There she is. Oh, so much better. Alright, you gotta drill a hole in this thing and tap it for a set screw so it'll be adjustable again. I don't want to just tack weld it in place. There we go. And of course I couldn't find my tap handle, so we're going to use a foot-long crescent wrench on this 1/4 tap, and hopefully we don't break it off in this stainless steel. And a little persistence goes a long way. And it eventually started and it worked out just fine. And we'll just use a regular little bolt. We'll give this thing a shot. We'll fire it up and see how she does. And we're going to mess with this a little bit. See if it's got this goofy little copper collar that slides up and down. This is kind of a replica of a sort of a Dave Hammer burner. And it works pretty good. Gets up to welding temperature. But I had put that little brass cone on there some time ago, and it's more in the way than anything. It was kind of an experiment. It just didn't work out, so I think we're just going to pull it off there. Try it without that thing. And get as close as we can here and call it good. Good enough. Alrighty. Food. Okay, we're going to mix up our ITC 100. And it says mix 2 parts ITC 100 with 1 part water. So we empty out the ITC 100 into the bucket. And I figure 1 part is going to be half the container. A little less maybe. And pour some back. Shake it up, clean the rest out, pour it in, and pretty much turn to water. It's kind of like paint. And I'm not exactly sure why. It's way too thin. But we're going to grab our brush and we're going to paint some of this stuff on here anyway. And this is way too thin. So we ran down to the store and got some more. And lo and behold, I actually mixed the two together. But instead of being brown, it's kind of gray. And it was much thicker. And I'm not sure if they screwed up the first time or what, but this is whole bunches better. So, alright. So here we are the next morning. It's only been about 16 hours or something like that. And we're going to do a little burn in on this thing. Fairly dry. And that's it cooling off. And we did this a couple of times following the instructions. We've got a few little cracks around the edges, but nothing major. And the inside looks really good. So, after our last heat there, we're going to go ahead and fire this thing up. and take it all the way up to temperature. And we're going to throw a little piece of iron in here and see how it does. See if anything falls apart or melts or where we're at. And since we got a hot piece of iron, now let's just put a little curl on the end of it here real quick. The forge seemed to work really well. It didn't crack on the inside. It got up to welding temperature pretty well. I didn't want to weld anything in it, didn't have anything to weld, so since we heated this piece up, I figured I'd just do something real quick. I think I'm jonesing to do some blacksmithing. I haven't done this in a while. Alright, enough of this. Let's go take one last look at that forge. These bricks off here. She's cooled down now, so it's looking pretty good. Look too bad. A weird little gray spot in the back, but all in all, I think she's good. We're gonna call her good, guys. Another one down.
Alright guys, there you go. So we got two forges, they're new, well they're repaired, they're up and running and they're ready to go. We got lots of work to do. Things have been backing up over the last couple of weeks while I've been doing this, and I've got bunches of tongs to make, a bunch of subscribers requests that need to be done that people have been asking for. I've been making a list, it's getting longer and longer, so a lot to do. So I wanted to touch on tongs. Lots of folks have been asking, can you buy tongs from me? Yes, you can buy tongs from me. How much are they? Well, I've been trying to drive the price down as far as I can to help folks out as much as I can. But right now the best I can do is $25 a pair, and it costs $12 to ship those things because of the size. It's not so much the weight, it's the size. So I can get 3 pairs of tongs into a package for $12 shipping, and if it goes above that, it's a couple extra bucks per pair of tongs to ship. So if you're interested in that, or you want to send me an email or whatever, let me know, and we can work something out. We'll figure that out. I just decided to start releasing those and open that up since I got the forges done, and I've got a little cleanup to do in the shop. But other than that, production time for me is pretty much the weekends, because I am one of those guys who works anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week. So not a lot of time at night. My weekends are pretty much it. So if you've got something ordered from me already, or if you're going to order something from me, it takes a little time to get it done, but I'll stay in contact with you and let you know what's going on there. So and you can always feel free to email me. I look through my emails all the time. I can't always answer them right away. Typically it's about a once a week thing. If there's something urgent, let me know, and we'll get you taken care of. And one more thing, I've got about 6 folks right now asking for different types of donations, everything from tongs, hammers, burners, all sorts of stuff. So the thing is that if I have it and it's something that I've scavenged or salvaged or something, more than happy to pass that along. And typically I try to take care of the shipping. And folks are great. They offer to help with the shipping all the time, that kind of stuff. If it's something that I have to go out and purchase to build, those purchases come from donations to the channel. And lately there's not many donations to the channel, so there's not a lot of leeway there to go out and purchase things, build them, and then send them along as a donation to new blacksmiths. If those donations start coming up, then we can start doing some of that stuff again. But at the moment, Big Dog Forge is a little bit dry. So if you guys out there want to help some of these other smiths out and see some videos on me building some things for donations to smiths that can't quite get their stuff together on their own, be more than happy to do that. So if you want to donate to Big Dog Forge to help out that cause, on the right hand side of the big picture of my Model A truck on the front of the channel, there's down in the corner, there's a PayPal donate to Big Dog Forge, and that goes right into a PayPal account where we can purchase those things and get that stuff taken care of. So anyway, that's about it. Things are looking good in the shop right now, and really appreciate you watching. And thanks to all the new subscribers, really appreciate it. And that's about it. So thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Take care, guys. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.